Welcome back to Dart Bank Insights. I'm your host, Brendan Andrews, and joining us today we have on John Grocki from Dart Investment Centers, who's the investment manager there. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really impressed with the recording studio we've got set up here.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So let's go into sort of someone that's thinking about, the retirement stages and kind of what they can do to set themselves up for a better retirement where they don't run out of money. Can you any tips and tricks or just general concepts?
I don't know that I'd say tips and tricks, but I think there are a couple of kind of first steps that most people should really explore. First and foremost, these days, most folks have some type of employer plan that's available. Most of our listeners probably have heard of a 401k plan, but if they work for a school or a hospital, it might be 403b or 457. There's all these different employer plans that are available to people. Those are a great place to look first and foremost because in a lot of cases, your employer will actually incentivize you to save for your own retirement. Most people have probably heard of some type of matching contributions that employers will make a lot of the time. And so learning sort of the ins and outs of your own company's retirement plan, learning how to use that, that's a great first place to start, and that's where there's a lot of times the most benefit. Beyond that, I think you start looking at, again, what are some of the goals that you're trying to accomplish. If it is retirement planning, you're going to want to look at IRAs, things like that. You're going to want to look for different ways to generate income in retirement. But I almost always start by looking at those employer-sponsored plans.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you harping on us to meet the match criteria because you're really leaving money on the table when it comes to...
It's so important. It makes the hardest part of retirement planning, which is the sacrificing and saving. That is where all the heavy lifting is at. And if you can get some help doing that piece of it, you've just made all the rest of it so much simpler, so much easier.
Right. So going into sort of the ups and downs, how often do you think you should check your portfolio in general?
That is a really interesting question, Brennan, because I talk with a lot of folks and I will hear people tell me, I try not to look at it because every time I do, I just get anxious about it. And so some of this is I think, kind of know thyself. Know what you're going to be comfortable with. I never tell people not to look at their accounts because I think that's I told you earlier, I think it's important to know what you have and why. So I would recommend people at least look at their accounts when they get their quarterly statements, things like that. You should always have an idea of what's in there. Certainly if you have an interest and are passionate about learning how it all works, looking at it more often can help you get accustomed to it and familiar with some of those movements that are taking place in the account. But if it is causing you anxiety, again, that's going to be a signal that maybe you should be looking for some help. You should be looking for somebody that can assist you managing that account. And then when you are feeling anxious about it, hopefully that they can talk to you and explain, here's what's happening out there. Here's why the account's not doing real well right now, and that happens. But they should be able to explain to you what's happening and hopefully make you a little bit more calm with some of the movements that happen in your account.
So one of the things that gets thrown around is really diversifying when it comes to investing in general. Can you just sort of highlight why it's kind of important to do that or why the different stages you might want to diversify differently?
Sure. So diversification is just a method that is commonly used. Really, in layman's terms, it's just sort of spreading out some of that investment risk that you might have. Instead of just going out and selecting one stock or one fund, and then being subject to all the risks that go with that, saying, look, I'm going to go out and I'm going to canvass the marketplace and find different types of different investments and hopefully get those all working together. And so that if one particular investment doesn't do very well for me, hopefully I've got all these other ones that are going to help prop it up. And it's a common strategy to sort of mitigate some of the risk that can go along with managing a portfolio. And I do think it's very important for people to do that.
Well, that wraps up today's Dart Bank Insights podcast. Thanks for joining, and until next time, I'm your host, Brendan Andrews.